Very nice. Thanks for summing that up like that.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so, Thomas.
And I understand that the etymological roots of mystery come from myrrh, I believe, which means like where we get murmur from, the inability where you're left speechless. You can't vocalize what you see and perceive.
Yes, that's right. It's connected with the empirical experience in the mysteries of seeing things which render you speechless. It comes from a Greek root meaning to murmur or to even not be able to speak or only murmur. Mm-hmm. Okay, so shall we forge ahead?
Indeed.
All right. Mantis. What's happening? Well, Mantis will out. This Mantis wants out. And it wants out really, really bad. Now, there it is in the citrine. Thank you, crew member Tove, who sent me that word, citrine, which is yellow quartz. There it is in the geode, in the citrine, in its grotto, on its throne. It's a female Mantis. And it's very, very hungry to mate and to eat its mates. So to continue with the surreal truth a little bit, I have a couple of things to say, and then we'll swing around to something extremely visceral, to bring the surreal truth back home, as it were, and to realize what is so extraordinarily dangerous and precarious in this Mantis situation. To make a long story short, Mantis has got to go and leave the Earth. And how's she going to get Mantis out of the center of the Earth without cracking the Earth open?
So Mantis is a female Mantis in the center of a geode of lemon citrine crystal.
That's right.
And she wants out. Sophia wants her out.
That's right.
But the dilemma is how to get her out without splitting the Earth
without damaging
in
the
half.
Earth. That's right.
Wouldn't the thing that would come to mind? Couldn't she just kill Mantis? Couldn't that be done that way without taking her out?
No, she doesn't want to kill Mantis. That's not in her solution. So I would say this. The way to pursue this imaginative exercise at this moment is to go and look for the veracity and how can we verify how and where such a creature could be released from the center of the Earth. Well, there are two places to look. Where would it come out and how would it come out, okay? Coming along with me in your imagination here, okay?
Sure.
But I'm asking you to use your imagination at the same time. This isn't groundless fabulation. You're going to use your imagination in a way that can be verified. And I have some very strong verification for this event. So, there's two places where the Mantis would be most likely to emerge. There are two optimal exit zones. One of them is in South Africa. And that's not surprising, considering that the San Bushmen of the Kalahari have, as the central deity of their creation myth, guess what? A mantis.
Kagan. Yes.
Kagan, or Kang. Kang or Kagan is the giant divine mantis who lives in the center of the earth in Bushman mythology. Now, I would advise all of you who would care to do so to go to Amazon or whatever and get a copy, and there's many used copies, of A Mantis Carol, C-A-R-O-L, A Mantis Carol by Lawrence van der Post, who was a great, great Dutch anthropologist who lived, and a close friend of C.G. Jung, blah, 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 who lived among the Bushmen of the Kalahari and wrote their marvelous stories of that culture. A Mantis Carol is an absolutely beautiful book and a good book to read right now. So inform yourself a little bit about the Bushman mythology of the mantis. I'm not going to go into it right now, but the basic thing is they picture Mantis exactly where she is, and that is in the center of the earth. And it's what is called an emergence, a myth, which is very similar to that of the Navajo and the American Indians of the Southwest, who say that humanity emerged from inside the earth. The optimal situation in the south of Africa, southern Africa, in that continent for the escape of the Mantis. By the way, it's good to know where the Mantis wants to go. And this is another reason why the southern hemisphere exit is favorable and appropriate. There are two clouds that accompany our journey. And these two clouds are called the Greater and Lesser Magellanic Clouds because they were observed by Magellan when he sailed around the Cape of Horn. Okay? You see them in the southern hemisphere. They're blotches. And they are actually like massive plasmic clouds that float alongside the galactic arm that we're in, but they're not in the arm. Okay? In the larger Magellanic Cloud, where there's a massive supernova called the Tarantula Nebula in 1974, February of 1974, in the larger Magellanic Cloud is a vast colony of gigantic mantises. And so, just like the one at the center of the earth, and so she really wants to go there really bad, because then she can just copulate into complete delirium and eat the heads off all of these guys that, fall in love with her. And that's what a great, big, giant female mantis loves to do. Okay? So there's nothing evil about her in that sense,
No, that's normal, yeah.
It's normal. That's what she wants to do. She wants to get out of here. Now, another thing that optimizes the southern hemisphere and the area of South Africa is kimberlite pipes.
Kimberlite?
Yeah, kimberlite. Kimberlite. Kimberlite pipes are named after Kimberley in South Africa, which is where there are massive gold deposits, or diamond deposits, the diamond fields of South Africa. The optimal occasion for the mantis to emerge would be in the diamond fields because of the presence of these kimberlite pipes. And what they are actually, they were discovered in about 1870s. They are needle-like channels, needle-like volcanic channels that are very thin and go deeply into the mantle of the earth. Some of them are 300 miles deep, and they're straight as an arrow. And so if there is a way, and I don't know how she's going to do this, that the Aeon Sophia could direct the mantis or draw the mantis somehow with her first attention to that point, she would be able to use the needle-like channel of a kimberlite pipe to allow the mantis to escape. And one of the things that the mantis can do and must do to escape is it must streamline itself. And you will notice that the articulations of the body of a mantis allow it to do that. You can imagine, we all see the beautiful form of a praying mantis. They fly, and we see how they climb. But you can see how you could take, if you had in your hands a model of a mantis, an exact replica with its mobile joints, you could actually fold that mantis up into something like a sliver.
Sure.
Yeah. The limbs would fold back, the legs would fold back, and it would just be like a needle. Now, this metaphor is cogent. And this metaphor is something to contemplate. Because for the divine Sophia, Getting the mantis out of the center of the earth would be the equivalent of getting a needle out of your body where the needle had entered in a thorn or needle, gone beneath the skin, and created an area of infection and pus. Everyone who's ever had a splinter in their hand knows exactly what I mean. Now, it gets white, it gets very pussy, and it can be a bad situation until you're able to open up that place. Just usually can do it with a needle sometimes. Burn the end of a needle, sterilize a needle. You know how to get a splinter out. She's getting a splinter out of her system, and when she gets it out, there's going to be an enormous eruption of pus. And what is pus? It's the ugliness of our behavior. It's ugliness. There is so much ugliness that it is suffocating us. And we can't live in ugliness, and we can't have a culture of ugliness, ugly clothes, and ugly people. I mean, just look at this recent performance. Excuse me for being vulgar. This recent performance of Madonna at the Super Bowl or whatever, okay? And then this other performance all at the Grammy Awards. People on the internet are going bonkers over this. Oh, Madonna performs an Illuminati ceremony. This is how the Illuminati are controlling us. That's all a bunch of paranoid, schizophrenic delusion. Because they got loose wires and they're paranoid, and that makes you a paranoid schizophrenic. Don't listen to these people. I'll tell you what's the problem with Madonna's performance at the Super Bowl and the performance of these horrible gangster rap, monstrous quasi-religious ceremonies at the Grammy and so forth. It's not the magic spell of the Illuminati being perpetrated on us. It's just vulgar kitsch. They're just suffocating us in vulgarity and kitsch. Die from kitsch.
You could indeed, yeah.
And we're close to it. And all of these people in the entertainment business, and especially the hip-hop, gangster rap scene, is of an inconceivable ugliness that is being forced down people's throats. So this is the pus of our civilization. It's the ugliness in every area of life, the vulgarity and ugliness, and it has to break open. And that pus will be blasted away when the mantis leaves. So it's a good thing to get the splinter out. Now, the other place to watch very carefully, and I think this would be more a place to watch natural phenomena regarding, what should I say, to monitor. It's possible that the exit could happen in Canada, but I think it's more likely, and there are things to watch in Canada. I don't know exactly where. I think there might be kimberlite pipes there as well. I'm not sure. But around Salt Springs Island and the area of Vancouver Sound is a really, really key area to monitor this event. In other words, people living in that area of the world where there are very, very big salt deposits under the earth could, in a way, the salt would act as a kind of radio that would allow them to listen, a radio crystal, that would allow them to listen to what's happening in the interior of the earth, and possibly there could be anomalous events and sounds and piezoelectric effects of an extremely dramatic nature in that part of Canada, which would be indicative of this event taking place. Now, when this event happens, it's going to take a microsecond. That's how long it's going to take. The mantis, when it's released from the earth, say that it comes shooting out of one of these kimberlite pipes at extremely high velocity, like many times the speed of sound, Mach 5 or 6. There could be booms following the event. But basically, the time that it will take the Mantis from the moment it leaves the surface of the Earth until it departs beyond the ionosphere and hightails it for the Greater Magellanic Cloud is way under a second. In that microsecond, all bets are off. It's very difficult to say what could happen in that microsecond. It's possible.
You mean all bets are off in what kind of influence this could have on the planet?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. It's possible, for instance, that in that microsecond, every single crystalline electronic technology device on the planet could be fried. That's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, because I don't predict. But I want to give you, it's my responsibility to give you voracious leads as to how to follow these imaginative events. And I can assure you that there are physical, geophysical, atmospheric, acoustical effects that will allow us to verify this event. We may not be able to be entirely aware and present when it happens, because it's going to happen in a microsecond. And only she will know totally when that moment is, because her total attention will be on drawing out the splinter. But it could, because of the charge that the Mantis has carried and built up. Remember, it's an inorganic entity. It's not like the mantises we see that are organic insects. Because of this charge, it could discharge what are called Shiva grid resonance. Shiva grid resonance is what they use to do 9/11. It could discharge a massive flux of Shiva grid resonance. And it's anybody's guess what that would do. Physically, geophysically, tectonically, what it would do to the ionosphere, what it would do. It's just, this is an unknown. Okay?
And just one thing back to South Africa, there have been reports of huge crevices opening up, like massive scale, several hundred meters wide, that have just opened up in the past few months. I don't know if you've heard about that or not.
Oh, yeah. Over the last year, Thomas, we've been seeing these reports. Now, you can read these in two ways. You can read them as sort of maybe attempts that Gaia Sophia is making, opening up various parts of the Earth to see if she can find. It's a question of finding an exit recess.
Right.
So what I'd like to do now, since we're taking more time than I thought here, we only have about 15 minutes left. Let me see if I can wrap this up, because I said I was going to bring the surreal truth, and this is true in a surreal way, around to the real truth. And the real truth is about the desperation of the planetary psychopaths. Currently, right now, the psychopaths on this planet are going completely off the charts. They are in a state of morbid excitation. That is the exact term. To the extent that they are craving madly to destroy and consume everything they can. Even if they destroy themselves, they don't care, and they would like to take down as much with them as they can. This is the state of mind that they have reached. Now, in one respect, we can all readily agree, I think, that they've reached this state because of the accumulation of the insanity of their behavior. Now, when you have a little bit of insane behavior and you add a little bit more, it gets a lot bigger. And the planetary psychopaths and interspecies predators have been on a path of escalating and exponential insanity for quite a while now. Actually, for about 250 years, since around 1740 or 1750. Just prior to the French Revolution, prior to the time of the founding of the Illuminati orders, and so forth and so on. And this nightmare of history is being dreamed and concocted and orchestrated by these psychopaths, and they are at the culmination of their madness. But it gets even worse. I would propose an experiment regarding Mantis. Any of you who hear this talk, find out where there's a university near you that has an entomological department where they study insects. And go there to that department. Go there. Go to the place. Make an appointment. Talk to an entomologist. Ask him or her if they have a recording of the ultrasound frequencies that a mantis makes when it's copulating and eating its mate. Or of the sounds that mantises use, female mantises use, to call to their mates, because they use ultrasound frequencies. And record those frequencies. If they haven't a recording of them, ask them if they could do an experiment. Put a mantis in a plastic box with high sensor recorders and record the sound that it's making. And then, if you could, that's the first part of the experiment. It'd be very interesting to hear what that sound is like. Secondly, if you really want to have fun, well, then go to a sports stadium and put in the CD of that sound and play it over the speaker system at the highest volume. That's an experiment. Now,
Indeed.
If you're a psychopath, unfortunately, you're already hearing these sounds, and they are driving the psychopathic, murderous, and deceitful control freaks of this planet to even greater heights of insanity. It's not as if it wasn't bad enough already. Mm-hmm. But the cry of Mantis, the screeching, screaming ultrasound, has a particular impact on psychopaths. And it is my great pleasure to tell you exactly why. And if you're not shocked by this, you're not listening. I said a while ago, as Gaia dreamed it unilaterally in the pleroma core, in those initial conditions, she saw a strain of the anthropos, just one strain, because there are other human strains evolving on other Earth-like worlds in our galaxy, in this galaxy. She saw one strain emerging in a world, in a particular setup. I can now give you the complete details of those initial conditions, and that's another recording I'm doing this week. In those conditions, she conceived of us as a male-female polarity. She conceived of us as the human strain as being male and female. There could be a human strain that's totally hermaphrodite and doesn't have male and female attributes. She did not conceive us as hermaphrodites. She conceived us in a fashion of anatomical and structural gender, not exactly like the actual organs that we have now, no. But in a way that was a prototype of male-female anatomy, and such that we could reproduce meiotically by meiosis. M-I-E-O-S-I-S. And meiosis is cell division. So when you see an amoeba or any kind of bacterium splitting and dividing, you know those fantastic pictures that you see, the rapid splitting and spreading, an amoeba splitting into two, and each of those splits into two. That's meiosis. That's how she wished us to reproduce. I have said this before. This is why Gnostics were against procreation. You know, everybody repeats that statement. It's a rumor from the classical time. All the scholars say it. And nobody stops to think about what it means. Nobody examines it. Nobody says, people just discard it as absurd. Well, how absurd? I mean, how ridiculous. How can you be against procreation? Well, I am, as a Gnostic, reborn, telling you today what that means. It means that Gnostics understood in their devotion to the divine experiment that we were not intended to reproduce by mitosis, as we do, but rather by meiosis. And that is one of the huge problems that is faced to be solved in correction, where we, the human species, and we as individuals and as men and women in the gender equation, the male-female equation is the problem, and the solution is in the male-female equation. Solution cannot be found in any gender variants, which are sidetracks from the equation. Do you understand that? We have to stay in the male-female dyad to solve this problem. We were not intended to reproduce mitotically in the way we do, that is to say, the conjugation of two distinct animal organisms come together and have sexual congress. And from that congress, the female member of the whatever species it is produces out of her own body the progeny and the continuation of the species. This was not intended for us. And I could talk for the next 3 days in huge detail about this problem. What I'm going to say right now, I've never said before. And the occasion to say it is presented by the problem of Mantis. You know, I said to somebody years ago when I was talking about this, and I couldn't defend the Gnostic position as well as I can now, many, many years ago, when I said, well, Gnostics were against procreation, and, how could this be, the person I was talking to was protesting and saying that's ridiculous, and how could our race continue? Well, the Andromedans reproduce meiotically. Our Andromedan devils reproduce meiotically. They do that by touching hands and by trading what is the equivalent of fingerprints. So there are ways to imagine how we could reproduce ourselves meiotically. And then you would live for a very, very long time. Because when your body got old, you would double yourself, produce a younger version. You see? So this is possible, and we can regain meiotic reproduction. But for now, we don't. And so to get back to that conversation, I was a bit thwarted because I couldn't really explain it as the way I do now, because I didn't have the whole story to show me. So I said, to me, I had made an extravagant personal remark, as I often do to get out of. So I don't show my ignorance. I just say something extravagant, So I said, look, to me as a Gnostic, childbirth is like driving your fist through a painting by Matisse. A woman's sexual organs are of the beauty and splendor of a painting by Matisse. And you're going to tell me that if you go up to that painting and drive your fist through it, that is a beautiful act? That's the beautiful act of childbirth that everyone is so delighted about? I advise everyone to take some time to stare at what. To just look at it. Look at it. Women, look at it. If you need a mirror, use one. Men, get down there and just look at it. And I ask you to tell me how we could call our divine planetary mother wise and kind and smart, a great designer, a master of biological design, if she makes not only the head, but the whole body of a newborn human being come through a hole that big. You gotta be kidding. It's ridiculous. She would never design anything as inefficient as that. And we pay one hell of a price for that inefficiency, which is not the way we were intended to procreate. And do you know what the price that we pay for that inefficient design is?
Was that with the skull, you mean?
Yes, with the skull.
Has to be broken up into 7 pieces, yeah.
Yes. The price we pay is that due to the trauma of birth, a certain percentage, it's only a small percentage, but it's more than ample, of human beings are born with an anatomical disposition to be schizophrenic and psychotic. I hear a lot of talk about psychopaths. You interviewed an expert recently. Very, very good. We need to know as much about psychopaths as we can. This whole science of ponerology is a brilliant analysis of psychopathic behavior and even of the ideology of social evil as constructed by psychopaths. But not until now do we have an explanation of where psychopaths come from. Now, it is true that we can observe a transmission of psychopathic behavior. That's why it happens in families. And that's why when they're taken out, the family has to go with them. Okay? But apart from the behavioral perpetuation of psychopathic behavior, there is a root cause. And that root cause is birth trauma due to two factors. One is the contractions. Those contractions that a woman has expelling the fetus from its womb tear it out of its paradisical anti-gravity shelter in the amniotic fluid in its bliss and plunge it into absolute terror. Those convulsions are terrifying. The first thing that we experience coming into this world is convulsions of terror, which are the contractions of the womb. Then it gets worse. The fetus is contracted just the way that Mantis must be contracted and streamlined into a needle to be ejected from the earth. The fetus is contracted. The shoulders are drawn together if you're born head first. The head is driven through the uterus, coming out of that small hole, contracting the plates. Now, it's okay that the plates of the brain can move because they're supple, aren't they? So we have had an adaptation. We have had an adaptation, and it's a favorable adaptation. But there's one thing that has not been adapted for. And that is the way that being born through a birth canal and forced to that contracted space distends the medulla oblongata and the structure of the reptilian brain. It causes it to be distended. That is to say, it tears it. It tears it. It's as if you had in your hand a kind of a very crude example. Let's say you had spaghetti. You know, you have in your two hands, laid across your two hands, a number of strands of wet spaghetti, a braid of wet spaghetti. Suppose that you squeezed that spaghetti and you pulled it almost to the point where it would break. That's what I mean by distension. The precious and delicate nerves of the medulla oblongata and the back brain that connect the brain and the whole cerebral instrument to the spinal nerves is distended. And the result of that distension, in some small number of cases, is that it causes an irritation of those nerves. The nerves that join the spinal column at the back of your head to your brain. And that is the predisposition to be schizophrenic and psychotic. Those are the loose wires. Those are the ripped, I call them the ripped wires of the psychopaths. Psychopathic behavior has an anatomical and neurochemical basis. They have ripped wires hanging off the back of their neck. Now, you remember I told you that the archons get us coming and going. Remember that?
Right. Through the archontic stare, yes.
They get us by the stare at the back of the neck. Well, when you have a distended and torn nerve connections at the back of your neck, as schizophrenic,
you're more susceptible
to that stare. And it gets really bad when the screaming of the Mantis comes through the layers of the earth, when the screams and screeching of this great creature of terror, of its ultrasound nature, reach those nerves, it excites them terribly. You see, I can stand here, and I don't have that, even though I was pulled out of my mother's womb with a pair of cold steel forceps.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time that my mother ever saw me, she screamed and almost fainted because I had two purple lines, like warriors' tattoos, down each side of my face. She thought I would be scarred for life.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor said to her, no, those are just the forceps marks and they'll go away. They did. But those were my warrior marks I was born with, like Maori tattoos on either side of my face. And even though I, like everyone else, was subjected to this horrible distension of the cranial nerve fibers around the medulla and the back brain, as I stand here right now, my instrument is intact. So I do not respond to the screeching of the Mantis, but the psychopaths are going out of their fucking gourds with this sound. So you can see why there's double reason why she has to get that creature off the planet. It's a very dangerous situation. And it's a very dangerous moment that we're in right now. Probably the most dangerous moment of the whole 3 years is the spring and summer of 2012. And that is why, you understand, I proposed that you think of this talk and you think of everything I've said today, which is a lot, I know. Put together these two things in your mind. Mantis and mitosis go together. And it's because we are reproduced mitotically that we have the problem on this planet of psychopathic and psychotic predators.